degree program, as well as also any sort of previous global health experience before traveling to Rwanda. So Pamela, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Hello, this is Pamela Meharry, and I'm a certified nurse midwife. This is a faculty-led program in Rwanda, which is in East Africa. It's on the equator. It's a global maternal and child health program. 4 weeks this year. We were in July here in Rwanda, and the course introduces global health, but really focused on maternal child health. It's a 6-credit course. We include class time, which is 2 mornings a week. We have clinical time in the referral hospital, 1 day a week. And we have 2 days of simulation lab where we learn about neonatal resuscitation and managing postpartum hemorrhage. We also have cultural events in town and out of town. And we have 2 weekends away. One at Lake Kivu and one at Akagera National Park. And this course is open to undergraduates or graduate students. And yeah, I think my minute's up.
Yeah, great. Okay.
I'd like to turn it over to student introductions.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through my screen. So Paulina, you're actually next up.
Okay, so my name is Paulina Gallier. I am a graduate nursing student in the AGMS program, which is like the entry to nursing program. I'm actually finishing up my final semester. I'll be graduating this December. Super excited for it. And I signed up for this program because I've never did a study abroad program before. And it was the perfect opportunity because it was also like an area that I wanted to work in, so.
Awesome. Driti?
Hi, my name is Driti, and I'm one of the BSN students at UIC. I'm currently a junior at UIC, and I signed up for study abroad because I wanted to try something new and explore different subfields, and I thought mother and child health was a perfect field to explore, and it was amazing.
Awesome. Celeste?
Okay, hello. Sorry, I was just locking my dog up. He was acting up. But I'm Celeste. I'm in the same program as Paulina. We're in the grad entry master's program. We're graduating in December. I wanted to do this program because I'm also interested in mother and baby health, maybe the NICU. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. And then I also just wanted to go to Africa because who wouldn't want to be there, you know?
Awesome, thank you. And I see this Mari, yeah, also on the call. She's muted. Yes, yeah, go for it.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Mariah Elliott. I'm a candidate for Integrated Health Studies in UIC IHS. And the reason I studied abroad is because I wanted to be somewhere new, but mainly I was like interested in maternal health. So.
Awesome. Is there anyone else that I'm missing that I haven't called upon?
Yes, Angela.
Angela, yes, please go ahead.
She just needs to register to get in, actually.
Okay. Oh, there she is. Angela, we're just doing an introduction, so feel free to unmute yourself and tell us what program you're in terms of your studies, as well as also any sort of global health experience or before going to Rwanda.
Sorry about that. It wouldn't let me connect, so I had to log in with my Gmail account. So I don't know why. I'm Angela O'Brien. I'm a DNP student with UIC. I'm in the advanced population health track, which is population health, public health, not geriatrics. People think advanced population health and they think it's geriatrics. I don't know why that is, but people have told me that several times. So my master's in nursing is in public health leadership. And I'm in year 2 of the program. So my background in global health, is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I've been to Uganda twice once for a mission trip, once as faculty. I'm also faculty at the College of Medicine in Peoria. And so we have a program that we take the med students to Uganda and do innovation and global medicine. And so I'm faculty with that as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. Anyone else that I am missing? If not, one of the first questions I wanted to pose to the students who went on this trip to sort of reflect on and sort of share your thoughts about, well, what were you excited about or nervous about before actually going on this study abroad program? And feel free to go ahead and speak up.
I could go first.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I was nervous about with the study abroad is that it was my first study abroad. And it was basically my first time traveling alone. And also my classmate or my group that I was going with also had doctorate and master's students, which I haven't had much experience interacting with doctorate and master's students. So it made me nervous, but it was amazing. It was an amazing experience, and I got to learn so much from them, and my social network expanded greatly after that.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else that wants to speak to that question?
I can. I was nervous because I've just never been to another continent before. I have traveled outside of the country because I have family from Haiti. So I'm used to traveling, also traveling on my own, but going to a whole different continent. Not only that, but like just hearing about like motherland Africa. So I was I was kind of nervous because I just didn't know what to expect. But as Driti said, that it was a wonderful experience. I got to learn a lot, not only from my group, but from the country I went to. It's a beautiful country, and I'm looking forward to traveling more in Africa.
Awesome. Thank you. Celeste, go for it.
Okay, so I was nervous about like being away from my family, even though it was only a month. So like I survived, but I have a dog. I mentioned him earlier. He's 1 year old, and I haven't been away from him like before I went to Africa. So I was nervous about that, but he ended up fine. Everything ended up good. I was excited about going to Africa in general because, like I said, I've always wanted to go, but I never thought it would happen like so soon and like now. I thought it would be like when I'm older. So I was excited about that, and then just learning about the culture because I didn't know like much about it besides like movies, which I feel like are a lie. So like it was just much more better than what you would think it was. It was amazing.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else, Angela? I don't want to call on you.
I feel like I was, sorry, it's a noisy background. So I was really excited in general. Like I was really nervous because I wanted to be in a new place and have new experiences. So what the most thing I was nervous about was the flight, because I heard like sometimes it can get delayed and you're back in another place. Like kind of nerve-wracking for me, but when we got there, like all the nerves, we got there safely. It was fine. Like even the girls from my group, like Angelique and Driti, like they made me feel so much better like before the flight, and we prayed and everything. So it was very easy.
Awesome. Great. Angela, any thoughts on this?
I didn't have any, I wasn't nervous about any of that because I'd been before to Uganda, which is right next door. It's a neighbor of Rwanda. I was a little bit nervous because I've never traveled internationally alone. And so the fact that we all, a lot of us had different flights, that was a little bit scary, but it was fine. It was good. It was all good. And Mariah had never flown internationally before, and she did it by herself, and she was a rock star. So
Awesome. So now we want to switch up a little bit and talk more about the sort of the academic and language experiences that you encountered on this trip. So please describe and let us know how your learning experiences were either different or the same when you were in Rwanda for the study abroad program.
I can start this one. So for me, my program has mainly been online since like my program has been since through the pandemic. So that was different because it was like actually going in person every day, not every day, but like when you would have class, you would go in person. But a difference was for clinical, at least for me, back here, it's more hands-on because I'm a master's student. But then when you're there, you can't really be as much hands-on. You're more observant, which is good for people that don't have experience, like bachelor students. But it was also just cool to still see. So I feel like it was still worth it in the end because you're learning about their country's healthcare system. So that was, yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, cool.
I would say that,
Me,
oh,
you go
do you
ahead.
want me to- okay.
You got it.
I would say it's kind of the same for me. It was a little bit different because we were so used to having online classes or doing it through Zoom. So for me, it was a lot more refreshing and relieving to be in person. And it was actually a lot, it wasn't like rigid or anything of the sort. It was very relaxed. There was space for us to put our input into the lecture and to get ask questions, of course, and to just have like more of a discussion-based class instead of like being told and then leave the information and then leave. As for clinicals and for labs, they were really, really interesting experiences. I personally would say that while I understand that we had to do like observational for a number of reasons, I was also kind of frustrated because I'm used to being hands-on in the clinical setting, both in school and at work. So it was an interesting experience, and I enjoyed it.
Great. Go for it.
For me, like I had no experience. I have no experience in clinical settings or nursing or anything like that. So I really jumped in like for clinicals. I mean, it was observational, but like I had to mentally like take note of things that I didn't know, and like mainly like it was just a mental note of like the processes that go down there. Like, so it's because like when I'm here, like I take notes and I take notes and I write them down, but right here I was just kind of like thinking about them.
So before the study abroad program, I was mainly pre-nursing. So I did as an undergraduate, a lot of huge classes. And it was very formal, but I loved how the study abroad group was very small and our lecture was more like a discussion, which I loved. And in terms of clinicals, I love the observation part because I didn't have as much experience, so it was really nice to observe. But then again, we use different languages, so it made me focus on other aspects in observation. Like I paid attention to all the little small actions because the language they used was different. But I also learned that I'm really good at picking up language, and that was amazing.
Nice. Angela, any thoughts about that? Yeah.
I would say that I agree with Driti when you have speakers come into the classroom that can share their personal experience. It just always makes you kind of sit up and listen better. Like I loved that, to be able to hear from so many people, as well as Dr. Meharry and her experience, just being able to chat with her even on a bus ride to somewhere or whatever was fun, to be able to hear about her adventures and her work that she does. I also really appreciated that. And I would say that this is not something that doesn't happen all the time in regular curriculum. But one thing that did happen on this trip that was definitely kind of like next level awesome, in my opinion, was that, me being a non-traditional population health student who's not going to work clinically, like as a midwife or whatever, after I'm done or go back to the bedside, my focus was more community stuff. And so just having that conversation with Dr. Meharry and saying, hey, is there any way that I could get my hands on some community health workers and have a conversation with them? And that wasn't part of her plan, but she made it happen. So I was able to have some time to meet with community health workers, which I thought was great. Ultimately, probably is framing up my DNP capstone because of that experience, which is awesome as well. So I think in some courses, we are allowed to kind of pick our topics and go down a path of interest, but in many courses we're not. So that was one thing that I thought was really extra cool.
Great, thanks. I also wanted to ask Dr. Meharry if she wanted to reflect a little bit on her strategy or approach to facilitating these learning experiences. Was there any sort of intentionality around what you were doing and stuff like that? You're muted, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Rohan. So since this was the first class, study abroad class, we had to, and there were several different levels of academic levels, pre-nursing, allied health, 3 in the master's program, about to graduate, I might add. And also 2 in the DNP program. I had to be, I'm flexible anyway, but I needed to be even more flexible so that they felt like they got something more out of it than just what I had originally planned. And so actually that was really fun for me. I've done study abroad before with undergraduate students in South Africa at the University of Cape Town. And I have to tell you, this was so much more enjoyable for me personally, teaching, because I saw how much growth that the students went through in being able to do the things that they wanted to do and not necessarily what I was telling them to do. So that to me was a big plus. Plus, they're all really nice students. It was very enjoyable from that point of view as well. And I tried to bring in a lot of variety, not necessarily so they got lectured to, but so they would learn in other ways as well, like osmosis, by the things that they were doing. But I was most impressed with the ones that made an effort to get their projects done. And now we have this nice relationship with the Women's Centre. So I feel like we'll set up to be able to do more teaching there every time the students come. And I just feel like there's so many opportunities for students to get connected here. And that was one that they did very easily. So special thanks to that group that did that, because now we have a nice relationship for future students to come back, and each year they can increase that involvement. In fact, I had a friend here last week, a pathologist from California, and he bought me a whole lot of goodies in relation to another blood pressure cuff, pulse oximeter, glucose testing, pregnancy tests, all sorts of different things that I can use at the Women's Centre. We're preparing to do some clinical there over the next month or 2. But I can still have those things for next July when the next group comes. And I think we can just develop on what we're doing there, going, what they say, deeper into a topic here. So it was just a really enjoyable experience for me, and I learned a lot from the students as well. So it was a very good experience.
Great, thank you. So one of the sort of really critical elements about this program is having cultural exchanges or opportunities to learn about Rwanda and Rwandan culture. So I know the students, when I was there, I talked a lot about there were many different excursion experiences of engaging with the local community members. So I'm curious to hear if anyone wants to sort of highlight what was probably the most memorable cultural experience that you had while you were in Rwanda.
Can I start?
Go for it.
Okay, so it's kind of 2 things. One, I want to start light by the cooking class we attended, learning how Rwandans cook, what sort of ingredients that they put into their meals, how they prepare them. And I would say that with the cultural background that I have, there were a lot of similarities. So it was, I don't want to say it was second nature because I'm not in the kitchen all the time, but it was still really great to see this community, like at the Women's Center, teach us, how they present their food as well. And there was a lot of love that was put into their meals, and I really, really appreciated that. And the other thing is a lot more heavy, and I already knew about the genocide that happened about 28 years ago, but learning about it outside of the country it happened in was a lot different than being there. And we visited 2 memorial sites, and the experience was very visceral. We had a tour in, I believe, in Kigali's memorial site, and it was rough because we learned in detail without any like censorship, just in your face, like, here's what happened, here are the gory details, and here's what came out of it. And a part of that was visiting reconciliation villages, and I know somebody is probably going to talk about that. So if they do, I'll leave them to talk about that. But it was really big for me because I literally came back home a changed person, and it motivated me a lot more to be a lot more kind to other people and really, really advocate for people who've been through traumatic experiences. And
Green, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Who else wants to share their thoughts?
My 2 main cultural events I wanted to talk about were the same, the cooking class. The cooking class, I loved how the environment was like outdoor cooking. There are like multiple houses and there's a little community where you cook. And I also I realized some intercultural like similarities, like they use Maggie cubes, which is used in our culture as well sometimes. So it was really nice to see intercultural similarities with that. Also, the reconciliation camp, that, like, as Paulina said, it was very visceral. We got to see the victims and the perpetrators and how they live together in one village. And I got to realize some of the critical like values in the culture of the forgiveness and unity. And it was a very, I guess it's different to hear about it because we've heard about the Rwandan genocide, but to be there was something else.
I would say for me, I mean, that part as well, like that just stands out, that, you know, obviously for many reasons, and I had read a couple books before I went about it and felt like moderately prepared, but you can't be prepared. But one other thing that, and just having been in Uganda as well, like the kids are just so delightful and so much fun to be around, and just always invigorated us whenever we were able to spend some time with the kids. And so an unexpected fun thing, and we went to, I forgot the name of the place where where we took the boat ride. Yeah, I forget the name of that place. Dr. Meharry.
Lake Kivu?
Oh yeah. Thank you. So we went to this lovely area and took a hike, and the hike was, you know, it was great. I mean, you're out there like totally rural, like so rural. And there's just all these little fun, you know, kids just coming along and looking at us because of course we're like, we stick out pretty obviously, because we look different and we are dressed different, and, you know, but we were like 2 weeks in at this point, and I was just feeling really like this need to get my hands on a kid. I just like wanted to hug one of the kids so badly because I missed my niece and nephew at home. And I just was like, oh, I just can't wait to get my hands on one of these kids. And I was thinking about that. And literally it was just a couple minutes later, we kind of came by this little house that was out, and people were outside, and this little girl, she's probably like, what, guys, like 7 or 8 years old, she locked eyes with me and just came running towards me with her arms open, and I just like scooped her up in my arms and gave her this biggest hug, and it was just like divine intervention. It was exactly what I needed at that time, and obviously she needed it too. Why she locked eyes with me, I have no idea, but she was awesome and just invigorated me. So that was one of my favorite experiences. Total language barrier, nothing but like, you know, international love. It was awesome.
I will say that that was a good experience to like see, because we were all walking together and that little girl chose Angela specifically. So I don't know what that was, but I think you both needed it, like you said. I can say I won't say like cultural, I guess it's still cultural, but like a basic favorite day of mine. I feel like none of the days are basic, actually. I take that back. Anyway, the first weekend that we were there, we went to a lake called Muhazi. It was Lake Muhazi. And we just had lunch on the lake. And like, I can't experience, like, you have to like go and see it from, like, it's hard to describe it. You know what I mean? But like, just imagine having lunch, this like big spread of like all this different food that is like their traditional food on the lake, and like this big beautiful lake where like you look around and like the scenery just looks fake, like it looks like a backdrop. And like that was like the first weekend we were there, and I was like, wow, like I can't believe I'm here. Like I just felt so blessed, and like it was just so peaceful. And then like since that was the first weekend, like we got to like know each other a little bit more, because like we like knew of each other, but like we didn't really know each other, and we would be living with each other and like experiencing a whole month together. So it was like nice to get to know each other. And I don't know, it was just like very, very peaceful. So that was like one of my favorite days. The other ones I talked about are very good experiences as well. But I feel like in terms of like the genocide memorial and like the camps, you would just have to go experience it, because there's no way to describe the emotions that you're going to feel when you're there. So I'll leave it at that.
Indeed, indeed.
I just want to bring up really quick a small moment, but it was a touching moment where after we visited the memorial sites and the reconciliation village, when we got back to our apartments, our apartments was right next to a girls' dormitory, and I don't know what was going on, but I heard the girls singing, and I don't know if it was like a hymn or something, but just hearing them sing after learning about how children were murdered, it kind of brought this sense of hope in me, and it believed me, because it was just such an example of how the country was able to move forward from this horrific event. And you still see and hear children living and being kids, no matter what the situation, living in a place or living in a time where they are safe now. And it really did put things into perspective, and it just gave me a lot of motivation to be more involved.
Great. Anyone else wants to share anything? Because a couple more questions. Yeah. So one of the things I know a lot of people, I know you were thinking about it, I'm sure your families were also thinking about, is the concern around safety. So I wanted you guys to reflect a little bit about that in terms of how you felt in terms of safety being in Rwanda and moving around, whether as a group or individually on your own throughout the city or country.
I can start. I felt very, very safe the whole time. We walked almost everywhere. Like most of the days, like the weekend stuff, we would do a lot of travel by van, but we walked to clinical, we walked to the classroom, university area, we walked to the hospital, not all the hospitals, but a couple of them. Anyway, lots of walking. And yeah, we were usually in our little group, but still, like Mariah was my roommate, and we would walk over to the Marriott to use the ATM or to grab some lunch or whatever a lot, just the two of us. And we always felt very, very safe. I never questioned it. Even getting in taxis, I felt safe. The other thing is that was notable was pretty much everywhere you went through security scanners, and you had to put your bag through. So like at the airport, where you would walk through the overhead security thing, and then you put your bag through the conveyor to go into a hotel, to go into some restaurants, to go into shopping areas, grocery stores. Sometimes it just kind of depended on, but that level of security, I was fine with it. It made me feel a little reassured. And then there were armed guards here and there too, which again, it didn't really bother me. It actually made me feel a little bit safer. So yeah, I didn't ever feel unsafe.
Else wants to speak to that at all?
I can just say that I agree. We had guards outside our apartment specifically as well. So like they would let you in and out, and like they would see you go in and out. So they kind of knew who everybody was in that area. So that made me feel good. Again, like Angela already said, we mainly traveled like together, but like a couple people did walk alone. Like everything was in the same distance. So if you had to go to like the grocery store, like our classroom, like everything was in walking distance. Like you never had to go really far. I personally just didn't go without somebody. And then you just have to be smart. Like if you've never traveled before, you just be careful where your money's at. Like don't have your phone out, like showing it around. Like just make smart decisions and you'll be okay.
I want to say that I felt pretty safe. Like Celeste said, I was more cautious of like, okay, who am I around? What am I doing? I got to keep my phone on me, my wallet out of sight, stuff like that. But otherwise, I want to say my favorite thing in terms of like being aware of safety is how people drive. And I don't want to say people are crazy drivers. No, they just drive differently. But it's kind of like you need to be smart with how you cross the street, because there aren't any like set like, okay, stop here, let pedestrians pass. Not everywhere is like that. So we kind of have to like make sure we know when to cross, or even let cars know like, hey, I'm crossing here, and nothing happens. So yeah.
I'll also add real quick too that you also come across like some beggars like occasionally, and if that makes you uncomfortable, you could feel unsafe. But like, and they kind of can get close to you, but they never like actually like grab you and touch you or anything like that. Just that was a thing that I didn't notice and see. Me and Paulina would run into them in the night.
Awesome. What was the weather like for you guys in terms of getting acclimated to that as well?
70 degrees, 70, 80 degrees, sunny, hot or warm all the time. I loved it. I wanted to stay there forever. And it was consistent. It was consistent too. So very rarely, I think the last week we were there, we had rain, like the last 3 days. Other than that, it was just sun, warmth, and dry weather, because we were also there during the high dry season, I think is what they said. So it was a good time to go there, because also like we didn't encounter a lot of mosquitoes. Well, I didn't encounter a lot of mosquitoes. I don't know about everybody else, but yeah, so the weather was pretty consistent, and it was good for us to go out and move around without any hindrance from the weather.
It was better than it was in Illinois. I guarantee you. July in Rwanda, better than July in Illinois. There is no air conditioning though. So if you're a person that likes to come home and be in the air conditioning, that's something to note.
You don't need it. You don't
Yeah.
need AC. It's perfect. Like it's perfect weather.
Low humidity for sure. So anyone else wants to reflect on that? Because the other question I wanted to ask was like, how did you stay connected to family back home while you were in Rwanda? What sort of mechanisms or strategies you used to be able to stay connected, or also to maybe also interacting with each other virtually when you were either in country and stuff like that? What sort of platforms or resources did you utilize?
I can answer. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I'm very close to my family. I don't know if you guys got that earlier from my earlier answer, but I FaceTimed like every day because we had Wi-Fi. So like I was able to use Wi-Fi to FaceTime, call, things like that. If you want to, I had to add like something through my phone plan so that I was like abroad and it would be okay to use. And that was an extra 200. There's cheaper ways to do it. That's just the way that I did it. Somebody else can talk on that. We are also in class, like the master students were also taking classes online from here, like from Chicago. And we were able to do that using Wi-Fi. The time difference is, different, but like you can schedule around it. So like, if you can make it happen, you should, because like I said, you have Wi-Fi, internet, you're good to go. Yeah.
I kind of, oh, Mary, you wanna? Nope, okay. I kind of now I just lost the term, but basically like as it happened, I would like take pictures and send them to my parents via WhatsApp. And I also had I had a data plan with, I'm with T-Mobile, and they automatically update anywhere I am, like internationally, that they were connected to. So that was a perk I had. And I was able to use data outside of the country for either really cheap or for free, I don't remember. But I was able to use that and the Wi-Fi to connect with my parents through WhatsApp. And literally, like, as we're doing activities, I'm taking pictures and I'm sending them to my dad and my mom and be like, hey, here's what I'm doing now. And I did that with also I have a friends group chat, and I would send them stuff too. And we would talk about it all the time. And that's how I was able to connect and let them know what's going on. Yeah, the time difference kind of makes it a little difficult for us to talk on the phone, but we were able to, find a good middle ground and talking for an hour or two. Though there was a night or two I was on the phone with my friend, 3 a.m. for me, and it was maybe 8 p.m. for her. And she was concerned because she's like, isn't it late? And I'm like, it's fine. And I would lose sleep, but it was worth it. But yeah, that's basically how connection was made. And I was able to keep my parents up to date with what I was doing and let them know that I was safe.
Thanks. There are some folks in the audience that do want to ask some questions. So I'm actually going to stop with my own questions and ask folks to speak up. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, just raise your hand. So first we have Caitlin, and then after that, we'll go to Rebecca Singer. You're muted.
Hi guys, thank you so much for doing this for us today. Celeste, you mentioned that you're in the AGMS program and that you did have overlapping classes at times. I'm also in the AGMS program, and that's been one of my main questions, but I've been having a hard time finding out what needs to be done. So anything you can talk about regarding that would be helpful.
Okay, Paulina needs to help me with this answer because we're both in the same program. But I don't know, it just ended up working for us. I feel like that semester, particularly that summer semester, all of our classes were online. So as long as you had the internet, you were able to just continue taking those classes while you were still in Africa. I'm not sure what your schedule is looking like then, but maybe you would talk to your advisor. I don't know. Help me out, Paulina.
That's where I started, but it's just been kind of a circle of thing to the next person.
I can answer the question for you, Caitlin.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm Gwyneth Milbrath. I'm one of the assistant directors for global health and coordinate all the study abroad programs here. So we work with Robin Johnson directly. So if you do a study abroad program, we have it so that you can do it right before your last semester in the program. All of your classes are online except for the one clinical course that you have. And so anybody that is accepted into a study abroad program, we coordinate with Robin to make sure that your clinicals don't interfere with when you're traveling. So if you do a class that travels in the first half of the summer, you do your clinicals in the second half of the summer. The Rwanda program's in July. So you do all your clinical hours that you have to do at the end of May and through June. You finish your clinical hours and you do the study abroad program.
That is so helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So Rebecca Singer, go for it.
Yes. So I have two, one's a comment and then one's a question. So the comment is that if you're taking the Global Health Certificate program as well, there's an optional practicum. So you would have to talk to me to make sure that you're registered for that optional practicum in addition, and there would be extra work to get that credit hour or some reflection, and just making sure that it is on top of that sort of certificate to make it count. So it can, in this case, be a little bit of double dipping, but we would make sure that it was extra. So that's something to keep in mind if you were considering the Global Health Certificate program. The second one is a question. You're all talking about all these amazing ways, amazing things that you saw and amazing ways that this was impactful. And I'm curious about what you saw there that you wanted to bring home to your practice or to your education.
Well, sorry, Paulina. I would say for me, I didn't have a clear idea of what I was going to do for my DNP capstone. still don't have a crystal clear idea, but I got to thinking about the community health workers piece and how in multiple countries abroad, they use community health workers a lot more and have for a lot longer than we do in the US. And it's kind of something we never really heard about here in the Midwest until the pandemic. And then we had pandemic health workers. And so we're trying to, I think, bring that to the forefront. But now there's like Illinois Department of Public Health funding and some other funding sites that have come forward and said, hey, this is actually a good idea to like use people that live in communities to bridge the gap between Western medicine and what is going on in these communities. And so for me, that was the piece that I think we have a lot to learn from like Rwanda, for example, and other African countries, especially that use community health workers. So that would be something that I'm gonna probably pursue.
Awesome. Paulina, go ahead.
I got a lot more cultural humility. Even though before going, I was told like, yeah, there are cultural similarities between my parents' culture and Rwandan culture, but being there and seeing for myself, interacting with patients in the clinical setting really cemented that, okay, I'm definitely going to be interacting with so many different people of different cultural backgrounds. The main thing that I needed to really practice and I took away from was patience and observation and understanding like, okay, this patient is communicating with me in a way that I'm not used to. Let me pay attention and let me see what their needs are. And taking that and bringing that over to, just here as, what I'm doing currently at my job and as a future nurse, it's really important for me to have that understanding and also just have a sense of humor, because a lot of times, a lot of the patients that I've interacted with had a sense of humor and the doctors too. And healthcare, I've learned, doesn't always have to be like super serious, like you're super sick and you have to be like, not necessarily. And the way I approach healthcare is a lot different now because of that.
This, I think, might be directed specifically to Angela. Someone did ask about the DNP credits. How did that translate for you?
Oh, they're going to make me remember course numbers. So Dr. Meharry, maybe you can help me remember. So my advisor did say, yes, we're going to get you course credits. I'm not currently in the Global Health Certificate program, but I was able to get, I believe we did 2 credits, which would be 90 hours while I was there. And so I did have to like enroll in a separate course and do the work in that course as well. And the only downside of that was that course actually started like a month before we left. So they were able to count some of my prep work as credit, which was nice, but then also like the first and most importantly, the biggest assignment was due a week after we arrived, which was a narrated PowerPoint of something that had happened. So I had to kind of like hurry up and do that. So that was the only downside of that, was just the timing of the regular semester of the summer not corresponding with the intense month of being in Rwanda. But yeah, Dr. Meharry, do you remember the course number? I don't have. Actually, maybe I do have it in my phone. I'll look while you guys talk.
I actually don't remember it. I do know it was 2 credits and the 90 hours though.
Yeah, and so the other piece that I didn't realize was, so then Dr. Meharry had to be my clinical instructor basically for that as well. So she had to provide some extra documentation for me to be able to get those clinical credits, but it worked and we made it work, and she was kind enough to figure it out for me. So
great. I'm just looking at some of the comments and questions in the chat. So folks did ask about passports. So yes, you do need to have a US passport to be able to travel on this trip. If you are in any way starting to think about this, it's probably good to get that started now, because it does take time to be processed and have it in hand when you're ready to go. I also do want to highlight that there are scholarships, particularly on this trip. Many of the students, I think all of the students on this trip actually got funding from our office. There is the Carol Smith Global Health Award that offers scholarship funds for study abroad, as well as the Virginia Olson International Study Endowment Travel Award that also was offered to these students. In addition to that, we also aware that on campus, there are some scholarship funding also available through the Office of Study Abroad. And wanted to highlight one that we just learned about. If you have a Pell Grant, you also are eligible for the Gilman Scholarship. So that is something to look into. I probably would encourage you to start doing that relatively soon, because the deadlines will be approaching later this semester. You want to be able to kind of get in on that. Anything else I'm trying to think of here? Anyone else has any questions, please raise your hand. Or
There's a couple in the chat from, I know her as Kitty. She's in my class right now.
Yes. So one was the question about the dates for next year. I think we're almost certain that's going to be July 1st to July 31st, right, Pamela? That's what we have.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So that's what we're looking at for 2023. Any other questions?
There was one about free time. How much free time do you have to explore? There's a couple of, we had a couple of free days. I can't remember exactly like the number, but I think it was like at least like 3 or 2, like around there. But then also you're like in class for half the day, and then sometimes you're free afterward. There's only a couple days where you have like the whole day where you're doing something. So there is free time. A lot of the time we ended up like just doing other stuff, like more cultural things in those free days. So we were kind of tired because we just like kept going. But that's the point of like visiting a new country, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we would normally have class just till noon or 1 o'clock, and then clinical time was just a portion of the day as well. And there was, we had homework, there were assignments and things like that we had to do. So there was plenty of time to do that. And I feel like too, Dr. Meharry was really good about letting us kind of, if we were feeling a little bogged down because something had been able to, like it took more time than we thought, or and the other thing is like, you have to kind of go into it with a little bit of an attitude of, yes, here's the calendar and the schedule, but it may not work out that way. So like there was a little bit of flux that way, and you just kind of had to go with the flow and know that that was okay. And it was sometimes because the speaker was planned to come, but then they couldn't come at the last minute, or, something took longer than we thought because we had to wait to get into the classroom for 45 minutes because the person with the key didn't show up or whatever, so you just kind of like go with the flow, and you still find things to do and entertain. We were all very entertaining for each other. So there was always something to do and talk about. Enough free time for sure.
Awesome. Great.
I will say though, if you're a master's student and you're taking other classes, you kind of have to like use that free time to do your other work. So it's also like, prioritizing and planning ahead so that, a weekend trip is coming up, you have to get all your stuff done for that. So it was harder on us, I feel like, because we had other things going on. But if you're a bachelor student, you might have more time to like explore and do other things.
I also want to say that it's really important to if you have like a group work, it's in your other classes, let your professors and your classmates know in advance that you're going to be doing a study abroad, so that you can work out a schedule of when you can hop on and do work. Or if you have a class, let your professor know, hey, this is what's happening and stuff like that. Like communication is key with your other classes, and you would have pretty much a smooth experience.
There was a question about technology in terms of laptops. I think most of you guys all traveled with your laptops and was able to use that. So yeah, in addition to that, internet service at the housing apartments that you guys were using, but also to internet was pretty much everywhere. It was very easy to find internet signals and Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere throughout. So that was not hard at all.
I do want to say that in our rooms, we had safety boxes that we were able to store our electronics in every time we stepped out. I only brought my tablet and I think a gaming device, and the box was big enough to hold on to that stuff. So yeah, you should be good to keep your stuff safe in your rooms too.
Someone asked a question, what did your clinical day look like? What was part of your activities that you engaged in?
So Dr. Meharry told us that she wanted us to have a little bit of a more relaxed experience in clinical, especially since it was mostly observational. So we didn't like start the day at shift change. We usually got there around 8 or 8:30. And we would just kind of do a brief ahead of time and say, okay, you know, what does everybody want to do today? And like we would divide up. So some of us would be in labor and delivery, some of us would go to NICU, pediatrics, postpartum. And you know, honestly, depending on what your interest was or what you hadn't seen, like a couple of the students had not seen a vaginal delivery yet. So I think everybody got to see a vaginal delivery while they were there except me. But I've been a labor and delivery nurse for 25 years, so I didn't feel like I needed to see a vaginal delivery. And one of the students got to see a couple C-sections as well. And again, like me wanting to be more public facing, one of the clinical days I was able to spend with the community health workers instead of going to the hospital. And that was impromptu, something that she had arranged for me. So, but you didn't really have a report necessarily. You just go to the unit, you meet up with the nurse. The midwives actually in labor and delivery do all the nursing care. So there isn't like, there's a midwife and then there's an obstetrician. There's no like labor nurses. So you were working with midwives in labor and delivery. And we, you know, could look in the charts. I mean, they were paper charts, so we could look in the charts. We were able to be with the patients. I did supportive care with the patient, was actually able to like, you know, be her doula, walked in the hall with her, let her lean on me, rubbed her back, that kind of thing. So yeah, and I didn't go to NICU or the peds units because that's not my passion. So I stayed in labor and delivery and then was in the community.
There's a couple comments about the electricity in terms of converters and plugs and stuff like that. So does anyone want to speak to that at all?
Bring a converter. There's they use, I think, European plugs, if that's the term. So I had one, my mom had one, so I borrowed that. So it's good to have it with you. Bring one or two. Always bring a backup just in case. So yeah.
I just put a link. So for those who are curious to see what the actual plugs look like, you can see a lot of laptops nowadays, the converter, so going from our electric voltage, is also covers like the 230 electric voltage. So you actually only need an adapter many times. So you don't need the electricity converter. So that helps in terms of like, oh, if you have to charge your laptop in one place, and then, you know, you need the adapter, the converter for charging your phone, for example. So the link is in the chat.
So we're down to the last 4 minutes. I wanted to see if Dr. Meharry had any comments or things that she'd like to share with the audience, because there seems to be quite a strong interest among the folks who logged in here to check out the program. So.
Yes, well, I think that anybody's listening has quite a nice opinion of what the program involves. Yes, it is a little bit more laid back than what Chicago's like. But I had to bear that in mind, considering the students had other obligations, either work obligations or their school. We didn't have any in-class testing. A couple of things that they could have done ahead of time was the global health courses that are online. You get a certificate. There's a post-test once you've gone through these courses. They also had a case study, a global health case study of women's health, like maternal mortality and reduction in Sri Lanka, things like that. That's from the global health textbook that they knew the topic ahead of time. They got to select their own topics. So we had some more flexibility. They had to do reflections on a clinical observation, some kind of condition that affected maternal child health. They had that every time they were in clinical. They had to do a blog post every week in relation to some kind of event that they had seen, been in the cultural event or something like that. Let's see what else. They had a project to do, and the project had to be approved by the local people. You can't just have people coming in here from the upper global north coming in here telling the global south what to do. This is how we do it in the north, so this is how you need to do it. So it was really important for them to connect locally and find projects. And for the most part, that's what happened. It was really good and very well received. They presented topics that were needed and that their local people valued. So that project, they actually some of them paired up for that project. So that was a combination of it. We're also working on a manuscript. I've been given the information from the students and I'm just putting that together now. So there was 6 things that they had to do for this 4-week course, but no in-class testing because we only had mornings in class. We had guest speakers. And so it is a little bit relaxed, but like I mentioned, I think that you get information not just from the class fed to you, but in the activities that you do. And I feel like it was a good, well-rounded opportunity for them. And I'm sure they all appreciated and learned quite a lot while they were here.
You're muted, Ron.
Thank you, mute.
Sorry about that. So yeah, as we come to a close, though, I want to thank all of the students for coming in and sharing their perspectives and really talking about the wonderful experience they had. The other thing I also want to highlight, the Rwanda Study Abroad program is one of several study abroad programs that we facilitate through the College of Nursing. So there is also a study abroad program to St. Kitts and Nevis, which is in the Caribbean, as well as also a study abroad program in Spain. In addition to that, we also have a global health certificate program that if you're interested in also exploring and getting some more sort of fundamentals around doing global health, you can also participate in that. Gwyneth, I wanted to give you the mic briefly to just share with folks that there is an upcoming event on Friday, if they're also interested in participating in.
Yeah, so on Friday, we're going to be holding a virtual information session about all of our study abroad programs. I believe it's from 1 to 2. Is that right, Tina?
That is correct.
Okay, so it'll be from 1 to 2 p.m. via Zoom. So watch your emails. It'll have more of kind of the nuts and bolts about the study abroad application process. We'll have someone from study abroad talking about financial aid and those types of things. And you can hear about the 3 programs that Rohan mentioned, this Rwanda program, St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as Spain. So check your emails. That should be coming out in the next couple of days. And thank you all so much for your interest in study abroad.
Yes, yes. And if you have any questions or inquiries about anything related to global health, feel free to stop by our office. We're on the 11th floor of the College of Nursing. And yeah, if you have any questions, just let us know and we'll be happy to help you in terms of your application process or thinking through the programs or even thinking about a global health career with a nursing degree as well too. So thanks all for participating in today's discussion. This is recorded, so folks, if need to check it out later, we will have that posted.
Good to see everyone again. I've missed
Yeah.
you all.
Bye.